so mad at the internet.
And welcome back to the comments section where we take your questions and comments about body armor, firearms, ballistics, anything Second Amendment related, and we answer them here on this show. And Elliot, I don't want to start with a comment right now or a question from a viewer. I want to get into something that was brought up or made available publicly last week in the form of an RFP, because I think it's very relevant to what we do. And let me pull it up on the screen here as SOCOM was, in fact, looking for a hypervelocity improved capability assault rifle. They're calling it the HICAR. And so SOCOM issued this RFP through the Naval Service Warfare Center. And they're looking for an M4 compatible upper receiver group capable of firing, here's the key, high pressure 5.56 ammunition, as well as the currently used M855A1 and the MK262 cartridges. And it goes on to state that they're mainly looking for those hypervelocity ammo. They're looking to increase the effective range of the rifle, going from 300 meters to 600 meters plus. And they're looking to do it in a barrel length that's 11 to 12 inches. So essentially an SBR, I suppose.
Yeah, I assume it's probably going to be about 11.5 unless there's some huge jump in performance at 12.
Sure, exactly. And so what this will do is bring in the hypervelocity ammunition, load it to 82,000 PSI, as it mentions, and they're going to be using an M855A1 plus. What does this mean for us novices out there, you think?
Boy, well, a lot of people think, first of all, let's roll back to M855 green tip.
Sure.
Right? So a lot of people think that's like considered armor piercing. It absolutely is not. And then M855A1 showed up on the scene, which, as I understand it, was originally supposed to be an environmentally friendly round because it's lead-free, but it turned out to have much better terminal performance than M855 and barrier performance and all that. And M855A1 does shred most 3+ plates. You do usually need a level 4 plate for that. Now, we've made a lot of M855A1 rated 3+ plates throughout the years, the 1092s, the XRTs, etc. But most level 3+ plates are going to get shredded by that round. And most people know that because most 3+ plates, including the new NIJ 07 standard, are only rating for M855 original style green tip, which,
right.
I mean, when did M855A1 really come out? It's maybe 2017, 2018-ish. It really started breaking out. And this stuff's available on the civilian market. I've got, got a couple mags of it right here. I mean, this stuff's around. Yep. So it is something that you do need to take seriously. And now they're going to load M855A1 into a higher pressure casing, presumably so they can get better velocity out of it, especially from short barrels. It's an interesting proposition because up until now, higher pressure rounds, like you're seeing people overload NAS 3 cases to 4,000 feet per second and stuff. I don't know exactly where they'd land on velocity at 82,000 PSI, but assume they're probably looking at like 3,500 feet per second out of a long barrel, and then probably out of short barrels, they're probably going to end up getting like 32, maybe 3,000 out of an 11 and a half to 12-inch barrel.
Yeah, sure.
Obviously, because this is a new round loading and we haven't seen what kind of powder they're putting in it and that sort of thing, we just don't really know exactly what we're going to get out of this quite yet. But especially with those penetrator rounds, I mean, until now, those things have really destroyed barrels between M855A1 and higher pressure cartridges. Like both of those things will wreck barrels. But also when this came out, Proof came out the same day and pointed out that they have a new rifling technology, I think called, was it PXR or PXT or something like that. It was Proof exponential rifling. This is a progressive rifling thing. So it's sort of like accelerating the round instead of just putting it in there and trying to launch it at that rotation. Now we've seen that before, but it seems that the one that they've sort of developed that they call exponential rifling does actually extend barrel life quite a bit, which now makes these rounds a lot more feasible. Combine that with like the AERMET barrels and bolts that we've seen pop up on the market the past few years. that's going to make, I think, I mean, we're starting at SOCOM here, but that's obviously going to trickle its way into the civilian sector, right? Eventually, all this stuff trickles down. How many people have Mark 18s and Geisley upper receiver groups and now Sons of Liberty Mark 1s, right? This is going to be something that eventually trickles down to the civilian sector. There's already people hand loading this stuff on YouTube. So as soon as this tech is really kind of honed in and developed, and I think that SOCOM contract is going to do that, that stuff's going to hit the civilian sector, and that's going to be a new threat profile that people have to be concerned about. Frankly, you might as well start planning for that now.
Yeah, I think is this what you're referring to from Proof Research here? It looks like
Yes.
the result of this PXT barrel have demonstrated 30 to 100% increases in barrel life. I mean, that really changes the game, doesn't it?
Yeah, that makes it so that you can effectively use penetrator ammo and extreme penetrator ammo like an M55A1 Plus a lot more effectively, because it used to be that you would burn out, a cheap barrel in 5,000 rounds. You'd burn out a nice barrel in 10,000 rounds. And they're looking for a 20,000 round service life on a barrel that shoots quote unquote MA55A1 Plus, which is a big ask, except for if you use this new rifling dynamic tech there that they have. In addition to that improved metallurgy, theoretically, man, maybe you can get 20,000 plus rounds out of it, maybe even more. I have heard that some people are saying some of those AERMET barrels last for like 70,000 rounds. So if this does make approaching, high velocity penetrator rounds a lot more ubiquitous, then that is something that we have to build to, right? And NIJ they haven't even published really the MA55 final standard yet. I mean, it's not mainstream. The NIJ list isn't published. It's not really being tested yet. So even when that comes online, the NIJ 07 protocol is already obsolete. And this is, if they started making an NIJ 08, and they would base that on MA55A1, okay, but now that's even obsolete, because now we have MA55A1 Plus that's just over the horizon right now.
Exactly. And they talk about in this RFP, one of the things that they want to accomplish here is enhanced barrier penetration. They say the increased velocity and kinetic energy enables the projectile to more effectively defeat body armor, barriers, and other hardened surfaces. So a lot of people might be going, why are you guys talking about this? Well, ballistics and these new technologies directly impact what we're doing, because we have to build armor to be able to stop these emerging threats. Will this take over the industry? Who knows, right? But generally, once the military adopts something, if they end up adopting this and it goes through after they receive their RFPs, then it'll, like you said, become much more ubiquitous. It'll come into this market, I would think, pretty quickly.
Yeah, those as soon as they figure out the precise sort of formula for building a rifle to that spec, I mean, I guarantee you that's going to filter into the civilian sector like that. I mean, there's going to be initial buyers that are going to pay $5,000 for these rifles. And then, all of a sudden the mass production is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And before you know it, you're going to be able to buy one of these things for $1,500. I mean, just calling it now. You can buy extremely high quality rifles for under $1,500 now from, mainstream defense contractors. So at a certain point, that tech is going to filter out into the civilian world. And whether you are, armoring yourself up to defend your home or your community or your nation, this is now something that you have to consider, right? Because this is now in sort of the 2A zeitgeist. This is something that people are going to be building to. So you absolutely have to prepare for that. And frankly, sub level 4, it's just unknown what kind of performance that's going to be able to manage. Even plates that are built for MA55A1 may not survive MA55A1 plus. And that's not going to be the end of it either. There's going to be other rounds that come out, whether it's higher speed, just normal full metal jacket rounds. Somebody is going to load M80A1 to the spec, right? Somebody is going to load, armor piercing rounds to the spec. It's hard to know where this stops, but we have to start making sure we're equipped to deal with that as early as we possibly can.
Exactly. So maybe Proof Research will reach out to us, and maybe we can work with them a little bit on developing something and testing for sure to see, because as we know in our world, velocity is ultimately what hurts body armor the most. And so the increase in pressure, increase in velocity, the increase in effective range of the ammo through these different factors, it's definitely something to keep an eye on, and something we'll have to look at. I want to pull up something else because you mentioned you put this on X, and I love a lot of these things that come up on X when you post stuff. There's always, especially around body armor, there are always people who believe that they know best, right?
Yes,
And
there's the mythology people that believe there's some kind of sorcery or secret sauce that goes into body armor manufacturing that makes it work or not work. It's not that complicated, actually.
yeah, exactly. And you mentioned you mentioned the Soldier Systems post that had this SOCOM RFP on it, and you wrote, "Gonna bet right now the M855A1 Plus still won't beat a level 4 plate." And there's
I stand by
always,
that prediction.
yeah, I agree. And there's always one of these guys. He says, "You forget M995 exists," which is what, a black tip, right? Version of a 5.56. And our plates have been tested that way. And you come back and say most level 4 plates beat that too. And then here's where they always go, something like this.
It's always
Well,
one-upsmanship. So even if I just go, yeah, but this, they'll go, oh yeah, well,
so this guy comes back and says not 120 round belt of it. And this is what I like about X and what I like about social media a lot of times. Pancakes Revenge comes back and says, well, if you can put 120 rounds in a 10x12 plate in full auto, you deserve the kill. And so I'm glad that a lot of times we don't even have to respond back, because most people know that it's ridiculous that a plate would need to stop 120 rounds, right?
yeah. I mean, that was one of those things that people always talk about with the level 3 test for NIJ06 is it's 6 hits of M80 NATO, which is like, by hit number 5, I'm getting out of the way, certainly, right? So this whole thing where it's like, well, it's not going to stop 120 rounds. Like, right, dude. Once again, body armor is a catastrophic life insurance policy, right? It is not by any means making you bulletproof to charge out of the trench and just, Zerg rush your way over there, Leroy Jenkins it. That's not what this stuff does. And people will always do this one-upsmanship where you go, okay, well, it does do this. And they go, yeah, well, what about this? It's like, it's not built to do that. It's not supposed to do that, because your tactics are supposed to be smarter than that. If somebody shoots you, get out of the way. Don't stand perfectly still so they can land more hits. Because, by the way, if they shoot you and you're still standing, I guarantee you they're going to go, oh, he's wearing body armor, and change the point of impact. What are you talking about?
Unrealistic situations. This is, I'm sorry, I probably shouldn't even do this, but this is what I like about what I love about X. I mean, going through some of these other comments, this guy's like, I call it a Bangkok drill, 2 to the pelvis and 1 to the thigh, And I mean, serious comment. Well, I'd hope so. Otherwise, the plates would just get heavier and thicker, which is a good comment, because that's, what ultimately you have to do if you get larger and or higher velocity rounds that exist.
That's the essence of body armor is like, remember, you have to wear this on your body. So just like we talked about a couple times ago, like, you're free to wear a 50 cal rated plate, but the second you put those 2 in your carrier, you're going to go, oh yeah, no, I'm not going to wear that.
Yeah.
It's 12 pounds a piece.
And this guy, I think, is right. Everything is armor piercing if it's fast enough. As I mentioned earlier, speed kills.
And actually, on that same vein, I saw in the Americans versus British air conditioning threads this past week, they said something about like, Americans talk about air conditioning and yet they'll rebuild their cardboard houses in the same spot over and over again. And somebody's like, dude, a tornado will throw a car at your house. Like, your little stone houses wouldn't survive that either. And then somebody posted a picture of like a telephone pole or a tree or something like that had been split off into like a spear, and it had been sent all the way through a concrete curb and just lodged in there. Like 6 feet of penetration through this thing. Like, yeah, look at outer space, right? Tiny little specks of stuff flying at 26,000 miles an hour or whatever it is will destroy, a satellite or something. Like space debris is the most dangerous thing up there. Yes,
Exactly.
speed, if anything is fast enough, and if you shoot something enough times with anything will be defeated. A level 4 plate will be defeated by 22 if you shoot it, 10,000 times or something, right? It will eventually go through. There's no question about that. You're exerting mass and energy into a particular medium. It's going to eventually penetrate at some level, right? The point isn't to make something that's completely and entirely 100% perfect bulletproof. It'd be nice, and maybe one day we'll get there. Technology just isn't there yet, and it has to be something that is wearable on the human body without exoskeletons, insofar as nobody has those things yet.
The EOD suits.
Yeah. Why don't they make police pants out of Kevlar? Well, that's what that is. That's an EOD suit, is being large, almost completely covered in basically like 3A armor, and you basically can't move. And people forget you have to do other things when wearing body armor, right? And the police are probably the best example of this. The job of a police officer isn't to get into a bunch of gunfights. You have to, help old ladies change their tires and write tickets and chase somebody who's jumping over a fence, right? You can't just shoot people willy-nilly. So there's a lot of things you have to do that doesn't involve like absorbing bullets. Like you have to make that compromise. And that's what body armor always is a series of trade-offs going, okay, in order to make this level of protection practical, what are we going to sacrifice? Is it going to be weight? Is it going to be thickness? Is it going to be price, right? Stuff costs money the lighter material you go, because you have to produce stronger and stronger materials, and those stronger materials generally take a lot more inputs to create, like boron carbide. I forget what the numbers are at this point, but in order to cook boron carbide, you have to heat the kiln up like 2-3 times as hot as aluminum. Like that just takes a lot of energy to do. It's expensive. It's not as simple as just going, well, it doesn't defeat this one. Like, okay, yeah, sure, dude. We have to draw a line somewhere, right? It may seem arbitrary to you, but the NIJ in particular, remember, they are supposed to be rating body armor for American law enforcement. It's not for like guys that are like, well, the newest, hottest round is 6 arc. Will it defeat 6 arc? I don't know, man. Probably. It's just not something that, NIJ is going to test, because it's just not like a common threat that police face. They're going to literally look at police shootings and go, well, what were police shot with? What's kind of a common threat that's out there, right? Is 308 a common threat? Sure. Is M2AP a common threat? I mean, as far as armor-piercing projectiles go, that's probably the biggest one, because there's a lot of it out there in American hands, in civilian hands. But, why don't they update it to this? Why don't they update it to that? I don't know. I mean, you can go forever on trying to figure out where to draw the line, but it just has to be drawn somewhere. And
exactly,
this is where we're doing it right now.
And as a body armor manufacturer, we're trying to stay nimble, and adapt to the times as quickly as we can. Let's go from one cesspool maybe to another, X.com over to Reddit, because there was an interesting question there, specifically relating to our armor. A guy said, I would like some input on the RMA 1165s. Seems like 2 pounds lighter than my 1155s and a decent price. And the OP responded back and said, someone on here was saying that apparently the 1165s got rid of some foam and might have a slightly different strike face / material composition over the 1155 Gen 2s. And that's where the weight savings and thickness changes come from. Yeah, there's a lot of nitty-gritties for me. It all seemed hypothetical, blah, blah, blah. So let's give this guy the facts, right? What are the differences here that make up the thickness and weight savings on the 1165 compared to an 1155?
So between the Gen 1 and Gen 2, the difference is we change the ceramic. But in terms of the Gen 2s, the 55s and 65s have the exact same ceramic, right? We order one of these and we use it for 2 different models. Now, the big difference between the two that you're going to find where the weight savings come in is going to be this backing material. This is ultra high molecular weight polyethylene. It's super duper strong, and by weight, it's quite a bit stronger than the material we use on the 55. So we don't have to use as much mass in order to achieve the same ballistic results. So you save a lot of weight doing that.
And thickness as well. You save some thickness.
Yes. So actually, when we launched the 65 originally, we did not have foam on it because we wanted it to be as thin and light as we possibly could. And again, you will find this with every other manufacturer out there. High-end plates usually don't get foamed because they're not building them for certification. Let me say that again. Go look at LTC, go look at HICOM. You will see thicknesses in the 0.7 range because they don't have foam on them. They do not have foam on them. They are not built to be certified. It's one of the things they remove when people build a plate that isn't meant to be certified. So
For the drop
they build
tips.
it thinner, they build it lighter. And the foam doesn't add that much weight to it, but it's just a matter of thickness more than anything else. And a lot of people do want thinner plates because I know civilians don't necessarily understand this, but police agencies, for example, they use a program called BVP. BVP is the ballistic or bulletproof vest partnership where the federal government pays for 50% of a department's armor purchases. Now, the caveat to that is that if they are going to do that, that agency must have a mandatory wear policy in place, which means if an agency uses BVP to pay for 50% of a ballistic vest purchase, that officer is now mandated to wear that vest at all times on duty. So if they buy a foamed up, big, thick level 4 plate, that doesn't matter. They still have to wear their 3A vest. So this is something they have to put inside of their 3A vest unless their department, I guess, decides to forego that mandatory wear policy and the feds don't know about it or something, right? It's not so simple to just go, well, just buy an ultra thick plate. I know Civilian Reddit doesn't understand this, but there is an enormous market for thin plates out there that don't meet NIJ spec. And that's one of the reasons you don't. Not all products are built to that spec for a specific reason, actually for a lot of reasons. But one of them is people need thinner plates because you can't just take off a level 3A vest and go, I'm wearing level 4 plates now. Your agency policy might not allow that because they're taking BVP funding to buy that armor.
Yep. And for a lot of average people out there, normal citizens that buy armor, a lot of them want thin. A lot of them want lighter because what happens when you have that? Mobility, right? I mean, mobility, I would argue, is a majority of the battle when you're talking about defense, right? Defending oneself.
Well, just consider, I don't know if anybody's ever been in the military can tell you this, but sit inside of a Humvee wearing body armor and you will immediately go, oh, that's why people want thin plates. Or going inside of a building. Yeah, the thinner your gear is, the better. Or if you're doing, some sort of recce mission or something and you need to go prone, like tell me you don't want something thinner there, right? There's a lot of good reasons to get a thinner plate versus a thicker plate if that's something that's within your price range. And, the 1165 is within most people's price range. It's the reason we made it that way. Now, since we've launched, we have added foam to that in anticipation of NIJ certification. That's still going through the process of, I think, getting all the material sheets and things like that, the giant binder of stuff they need. And whenever they publish that list, then be able to do that. But there is foam on it now. It is still a little bit thinner than the 55. I think it's like 1/10 of an inch or something like that thinner. But yeah, it's still thinner and lighter than almost every other plate you're going to find on the market.
Exactly. So hope that answers that Reddit poster's questions. I do have another question that came in from our customer service inbox. So you're always welcome to email us there and we will get back to you directly. But someone asked a relatively good question there. And again, it's a basic question. We get novices and noobs all the way up to, experts in firearms and ballistics and body armor. And so a lot of people need to know a lot of the more basic or have more of the basic questions answered. And this is one of those. The question is, for the second generation 1155 multi-curve plates, do they come in a 10x12? The answer to that is yes. That's what the shooter's cut version is. They are not single curve anymore. We only build multi-curve plates because a majority of people want those and they are more comfortable. And yes, that right there is you're wearing a black shirt, so it's kind of hard to see.
Get a little more definition here.
I've got one too. So this is the shooter's cut. Right down here, the edges. That's what is the main difference. It's multi-curve. I'm not quite the Vanna White that Elliot is, but that's the 10x12 version of that, essentially. And like I mentioned, it is in multi-curve. And the second part of the question was this. Also, do the plates need another insert or of soft armor to make the rating be level 4. And I think this is something that can be confusing, especially for newbies out there or novices in the body armor world. There is something called in conjunction with, right? And
Yeah.
that means you need soft armor.
Yeah, and that is something that we did explore a few years ago, was making in conjunction level 4 plates. What we found is that the weight and thickness difference it's negligible. It's pointless to pursue. I know there's at least one big company out there that is selling an in conjunction with level 4 plate. I think is like their only rifle rated level 4 plate, I think. So they're doing that because they want you to buy the base vest, right? That's fine. That's their business. But do understand the difference between standalone and in conjunction with. We don't have any in conjunction with level 4 plates. They are all standalone, so you do not need backers on them.
All of our plates are rated standalone. So no matter where you look, what we say they will defeat, they defeat on their own without the use of 3A behind them. And
well, the one partial exception to that is the ESRT, but we didn't sell that as an in conjunction with plate. It's just kind of a mention like, hey, by the way, if you combine this with the 0214s, yes, it does rate RF2. But we didn't sell the ESRT as an ICW plate. We sold it as, hey, it's concealable body armor because that stuff is crazy thin.
Exactly. I think it's important to keep in mind, if there's an ICW plate and in conjunction with plate, it's going to end up costing more out of pocket at the end of the day.
Yep.
Then it will be just getting a standalone plate typically, because you're going to have to buy that other armor, and there's no doubt that the cost is going to go above one of our level 4 plates, for example, because that already happens anyway. So it is going to be more costly to you, the consumer, to get in conjunction with plates. So that's another reason why I don't even think it's worth it for us in many cases to bother with that, especially on the consumer level. And so, no in conjunction with on our plates. You don't have to worry about the extra soft armor. I want to hit up the final question, Elliot, of our comment section for today. And it's a question we get quite a bit. It's a common question. What is the lifespan of level 4 armor? And this can be a confusing question for many people because there's a couple things people look at. The NIJ mandates that there's a warranty period on your product, right? And so a lot of people, traditionally, we've seen companies have a 5-year warranty period on their plates, which is just for, the workmanship of the plate. It has nothing to do with the damage. If you damage a plate or anything like that, it's just the craftsmanship of the product. But as Elliot can explain, that warranty period does not have anything to do with an actual lifespan of a plate.
No. I think people need to understand this backing material here. This is plastic. Okay. It's a special kind of plastic.
You make it sound so simple.
It's what it is, right? And polyethylene of all of them, and you can look this up, Google polyethylene landfill, right? And you will see there is a huge cohort of scientists that are trying to figure out how to make it break down because it doesn't. There are people who have tested Vietnam era body armor, 30 years later, it still works. Yes, over time, you will see small amounts of degradation depending on how you store it, right? If it's in a shelf stable environment and it sits in your closet for like 30 years, it's probably going to be just about as good as it was the day you got it. If it sits in a swamp, and it freezes and heats, you're going to see some degradation of performance, especially because, ice expands when it freezes. You can definitely cause damage doing that. But generally speaking, if this is just something that you're wearing on duty, you're going to see continued performance for the 5 or 10 year lifespan. And to be absolutely clear, just the warranty. That is just the warranty period. That is not the lifespan of the product. And I actually, before I worked at RMA, I talked to, I won't say who, but one of the executives at a, let's say, consumable law enforcement products company. And they have expiration dates on their products. He said that was one of the best things they ever did for their business because the product never expires. It's basically infinite. But because it has that expiration date on it, the agency is then mandated to throw them out and get new ones.
Repeat customers.
Yeah, people need to understand it's not an expiration of efficacy. With certain things, yes, like get rid of your milk after 2 months. Okay, no matter what the date is. But this is two of the most inert materials in the world: plastic and China. I mean, people are still digging up ceramics from thousands of years ago. It's pretty inert stuff. It is not going to fall apart magically because it ages by itself.
If you buy body armor, you put it in your carrier, you leave it in your closet or whatever, it's in your house, it's probably going to outlast you and it'll still work if someone shot it, right?
Yeah.
And so it has a ridiculously long actual lifespan. Now, we get a lot of these questions. Okay, if I leave it in my car, I'm in a cold climate. If I leave it in my car and I'm in a hot climate like Florida, Texas, Arizona, etc., there are different factors, and traditionally with body armor, especially Kevlar, soft armor, that would play a huge factor. Well, part of the testing in NIJ is the hot and cold chamber. So when something gets NIJ tested or compliant, certified, that thing, they put those products through that test to ensure that they can endure those things. And what you're going to find is many of the rifle plates out there, it handles those perfectly fine. And so all of ours definitely do. And I do want to bring something up because our friend Buffman Range, I'm sure many of you have seen his videos on YouTube. And let me pull this up really quick. And I'm just going to bring up some screenshots here of a video he did. I encourage you to go and watch his videos if you so choose. He tested 3 different plates, as you can see here. He left one outdoors for 3 years, one indoors for 3 years, and then, as you can see on the edge of this one, he left this in a swamp for 3 years. So in some water, you can see, just the difference. So as we talked about, if you just leave a plate indoors, it's going to last. I mean, look at this thing. It's still brand new, right? And the same exact plate, left outside for 3 years in the elements. And then, so it got rained on, heat, cold, all that stuff. And then he left one in a swamp, right? So it froze over, it heated up, and when it heated up, it stayed waterlogged. And then he tested them, right? And so, and they all did. They were all level 4 plates. On the first shot, they all stopped the M2 AP, right? Obviously, the one kept indoors performed the best, and then there were some variances. The one that was just left outdoors, not in the swamp, performed well, and then the one in the swamp didn't perform as well, but it still lived up to his level 4 rating because it stopped at the first M2 AP round. So it's a very interesting test, and it goes to the point of what Elliot and I are talking about with the lifespan. I mean, these plates are incredibly durable, and I think this shows that.
Yeah, we should mention, I mean, there is a grain of truth to this. So that used to be the case back before we had modern adhesives and stuff that we used to bond our plates. To my knowledge, I think pretty much everybody is using the same bonding adhesive at this point, at least in the United States, because it is
some form of it. Yeah,
I forget what it's called, but it is pretty well temperature resistant. So the biggest problem that people were having is that this would come apart and separate because that glue would melt in say car temperatures, which I know in Arizona can get to like damn near 200 degrees. Right. If you let that bake out in the June sun. But it's not a thing that happens anymore because now they're higher temperature adhesives that go up to 400 degrees and that sort of thing. It is not the same as it once was. That is a problem from 20, 30 years ago that just no longer exists. So, exactly. Caveat on that, from American manufacturers, I cannot speak to what a Chinese plate manufacturer does or uses. Nobody knows. Because they're not exactly transparent with their quality control documentation. So I have no idea what they're doing. If you have Chinese plates, they may fail. I don't know. But American manufacturers, as far as I know, we're all using the same adhesive right now. So I don't think anybody from America is going to have a problem with that.
Exactly. So I hope that answered your question on the lifespan versus the warranty of a body armor plate. And, I think with all the education, we've given guys today. I think that'll probably wrap up this edition of the comment section. If you guys out there have any questions for us on body armor, firearms, ballistics, whatever it is, we'll be happy to answer them here on the comment section. So go ahead and send us an email or leave us a reply below this video or somewhere on x.com like we showed you earlier, and we'll be happy to answer them on a future episode. And until the next episode, we'll catch you later.
Thanks, guys.